Gentlemen.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you make of last night, besides, in your words, I'm going to guess, awesome?
It was awesome. I certainly wouldn't use the term bloodbath. I mean, these are elections. And you're Democrat, Republican, you put your name on the ballot, you have to be aware someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Everyone knew the dynamics.
But a lot of Democrats
the dynamics
did lose.
were good for Republicans. The president's very unpopular. I mean, he couldn't even campaign in 90% of the country. I mean, that's really problematic. It was a little surprising that Republicans won governorships in Maryland and Massachusetts, that they won tough blue states like Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin.
What does that mean for Chris Christie?
It means he had a good night. He was the chairman of the Republican
governors. He hasn't had a good night in a while.
No, but it doesn't really change the dynamics if he's thinking about running for president. I mean, all of his strengths, all of his weaknesses, those didn't change last night, nor for any other presidential candidate. So looking at last night in the context of how it helped or didn't help a presidential candidate, that's a little bit of a reach. We've still got 4, 5, 6 months for things to settle out, see where the Republican Party is sort of trending and who rises to the occasion before you can say whether someone's presidential aspirations were helped or hurt.
Was the problem with the administration? Did the president's staff not allow him to campaign enough for these people? I mean, one of Harry Reid's staffers, Harry Reid's staffers was, is publicly saying that the administration really screwed this up.
Yeah, I saw that. John and I were talking last night about the finger pointing, which is inevitable. The process stories about what staff are going to get fired and what's going to happen. Look, it's very clear. Last night was a wave. We were debating it all night. Would this be a wave? Something happens when Virginia is as close as it is, and North Carolina, which Democrats were very optimistic about, goes the other way. Something is happening in the electorate that's bigger than any one race. Having said that, I don't think the people around the country who voted, a lot of them in protest last night, are saying, hey, we need to shake up the White House staff, or, you guys go back to your corners and continue to slug it out. What they're really saying is, we're tired that Washington's broken. We want to see things get done. I think they're expecting both parties today, the president for sure, but also the new Republican leadership, to come out and try to figure out, okay, what can we get done? Because, by the way, we're 6 months, we're into another election cycle already, and if we all go back to our corners and start fighting 2016 again, I don't think that's going to make the American people very happy.
Here's a little insight as well. If Harry Reid's staff is really calling around, talking about this being the president's fault and the president's staff's fault, that's because his staff are afraid for their jobs because the size of the loss is enough that they think there may be a leadership challenge.
Isn't that pathetic?
Now, it is. And that's unfortunately exactly the kind of finger-pointing we're talking about. It wasn't President Obama's staff's fault. It wasn't Harry Reid's staff's fault. I mean, it was about policies and the president's policies. He said they were on the ballot, and in many ways they were, and the mood of the country. And we talked about it last night, the strength of a lot of the Republican candidates. I think pound for pound, the Republican candidates in key states were just a little stronger than the Democrats.
Senator, let me ask you, though, I mean, Mitch McConnell saying that he can compromise isn't convincing. I don't think of the Republican Party as one that's very conciliatory. It's really the party of no.
Look, if you look back on his record, Mitch McConnell has been involved in brokering more legislative deals than most members of the Senate.
So what do you think we can specifically see compromises on? What is Mitch McConnell going to specifically compromise with the president?
The easier opportunities are energy. You can absolutely do a bipartisan energy bill that approves Keystone. But
the president doesn't want to approve Keystone, does he?
65% of the country does. So don't talk about compromise and say, well, the president doesn't support Keystone. That's compromise. That's what compromise is about. And frankly, that's where this White House is on the verge of getting into trouble. Leaking that you called McConnell and he couldn't come to the phone. Look, that was an incredible night for Mitch McConnell. He's thanking his supporters. He's making a speech. It wouldn't surprise me if he literally couldn't come to the phone at the very moment that the president calls. So you leaked that out, and then you tell your reporter today you're going to talk about executive actions on immigration at your press conference the day after the election. If the president does that, he's really foolish. Absolutely foolish.
All right, Michael, you were part of the Clinton White House when we saw the White House and Congress work together. Do you see, from your experience, any possible place where we could see compromise today and possibly working together in your experience?
Yeah, by the way, I worked at the Clinton White House for 8 years, and there were plenty of times when both sides weren't working together. But I agree with John. There are some places where we could make some progress. I think corporate tax reform, infrastructure, there's some low-hanging fruit out there, things people agree on, right? More Ebola funding and cybersecurity. I think what's important is on Friday when that leadership team gets together, they're not in at each other's throats and in the corners and staking out political terrain, but they're actually looking for ways to get things done. And by the way, I think we have a narrow window, and I think it's possible. And success and progress will, I think, bring about more of that. So let's get started.
And the key to that meeting on Friday, it really is listening. I mean, you tell it to your 5-year-old, you tell it to your
I guess that's sort of like, I'm sickened by this. Are they going to listen? That's exactly what I say to my 5-year-old.
And it is incumbent. I think the president has a little bit more weight on him to go into and come out of that discussion saying, yeah, look, this is just about sort of listening to the Republican leadership. They obviously had a good night on Tuesday, try to get a sense of what they want to accomplish. They, in a way, they know what the president wants to accomplish. We know what his policies are. But now he can say, I was listening to them about what they want to accomplish. That's a lot different than saying, I met with them and I told them, here are the 3 things I want to do.
All right, I know we have to leave it there. How confident do you feel that there is going to be listening on Friday?
Well, I defer to my colleague from New Hampshire. It's tough. It's a toxic environment. But I hope, if anything, last night brings about that kind of dynamic.
And we elected these people to run our country. Sorry if you're
I'm less confident this morning than I was last night.
Yeah, I would be shocked.
Because of what I heard from the president in the White House this morning. I mean, really, that bothers me, this executive action on amnesty. If they're talking about that to the media today, that's crazy.